Vitajte pri novej epizóde Kvaz Rádia.
Tak ako každý týždeň, aj teraz máme pre vás pripravenú novú zaujímavú tému.
Tak neváhajte, nasaďte si slúchadlá a prajme vám príjemné počúvanie.
Did you ever plan any New Year's resolutions that didn't really work out? Like drinking enough water and giving up the third day knowing there's no way in hell you're going to drink 2.5 liters a day with your schedule? Or do you sing the lyrics to Bad Habits from Ed Sheeran way too often and feel like it's the most relatable song you've ever heard? Well, I'm welcoming you to this new series of episodes about brain, and today I'm going to cover habits. How do they affect our lives, how they are formed on the most basic and chemical level, and how we can break the bad ones. Let's start at the beginning though. What are habits? To put it simply, they are actions taken regularly and repetitively, often in some kind of routine, and are performed automatically. Depending on who you ask, you've probably heard that habits take around 21, 66, or simply anywhere between 8 to 254 days to form. The truth is, probably all answers are right, because it really depends on the habit in question. Incorporating a 5K run to your mornings is probably going to take you longer than using heroin or drinking coffee. Habits are divided into 3 types depending upon the nature of activities. First ones are what we call motor habits. These habits refer to muscular activities of an individual. These are the habits related to our physical actions such as standing, sitting, running, walking, doing exercise, maintaining particular postures of body, etc. Then, we recognize intellectual habits. These are habits related to psychological processes requiring our abilities such as good observation, logical thinking, and so on. And lastly, there are habits of character, or also called emotional habits. We express some of our character in the form of habits. For example, helping others who are in need, being honest, or talking in a friendly way are habits of character. We can also divide habits based upon their intensity, from innocent actions all the way up to addiction. Why do we form habits? Why can't we just live spontaneously every second of our lives? About 40% of the actions we take every day are actually automated. The brain wants to be optimal as possible to save effort and energy, and therefore it creates mechanisms that develop into habits. It would be just too overwhelming for our brain to decide and relearn every single thing we do, since it has limited capacity for decision making. It would be very difficult to think about whether we should and how we should brush our teeth every morning, so it becomes a habit. So, how are habits formed? Neuroscientists have traced our habit-making behaviors to a part of brain called the basal ganglia, which also plays a key role in development of emotions, memories, and pattern recognition. The brain has to determine which activities should we keep doing as a habit and which should only be a one-time thing. It does this based on how rewarding the activity is. This is called reward-based learning, and it has 4 components: a trigger or a cue, craving, a response, and a reward. Let's say that you see that your shoelace is untied. That's the trigger. So you bend in to tie your shoe as a response, and then you don't trip while walking as a reward. Here, the craving is not as apparent, but we do the activity anyways because the image of our face on the ground doesn't seem so attractive to us. The more rewarding the activity is, the stronger the habit. Basically, the more dopamine, so-called hormone of pleasure, is released by the hypothalamus during the activity, the more our brain remembers it, and the more we are prone to do it in the future. The important thing to mention is that the dopamine isn't actually tied to the actual specific activity, but rather everything that is associated with the activity or the thing. To make this more understandable, let's take cake as an example. The first thing about cake is that it's usually sweet and tasty, therefore our brain releases dopamine on itself. But cake is usually present also in events, such as weddings or some kind of parties, where people usually tend to have fun. And because we are surrounded at these weddings or parties by people we love and by people we like to spend time with, our brain really associates the feeling of pleasure, happiness, and comfort with cake. And these are the things that aren't necessarily just because of the flavor, but because of the people that we ate the cake with. so the effect kind of becomes amplified. The problem with bad habits, though, is exactly the part where we forget anything between the action and the reward. When we see pizza or a cake, we don't automatically think about all the great time we've spent with our friends eating it at a party, or about the time when we cried during a movie while stuffing our mouthful. Our brain just associates the pizza with comfort and good times for us because it remembers the amount of dopamine it got in the past. This is the exact reason why it's so hard to break the bad habits, because our brain is wired for getting as much dopamine and pleasure as possible. So, how can we break them? To change a behavior, we have to tackle the forgotten experience of the reward. We have to update the reward system. Even though our brain constantly works with the past memories, it doesn't ignore present inputs. It takes approximately 10 repetitions to update the old habit dramatically. Yet, some habits are so automatic that we are not really aware whilst doing them. It just comes to haunt us hours later that we've smoked 10 cigarettes already or spent 4 hours on TikTok. Let me teach you an easy formula called the habit loop that can help you be the change of your actions. You remember how we talked about those 4 habit-formating components? That's exactly what we're going to use. First one is the cue or the trigger. Let's say, each time you wake up, you reach into your nightstand to grab a cigarette to go to the balcony to smoke as a preparation for a stressful day. The trigger, in this case, could be the nightstand. You see it, you grab the cigarettes from within and go. Hence, when you sleep turned around, you won't see the same surroundings anymore, making a trigger less obvious to you. The second component is craving. We crave things because they are attractive, because they release dopamine. Make them less attractive. Open the balcony in the winter just to feel how the cold air is. To remind yourself that smoking in -5 degrees Celsius isn't the really most appealing thing you could do in the morning. Think about the taste of a cigarette if you don't really like it, or buy some disgusting ones. The third part would be the response. Make it harder for yourself to do it. Put a lock on your balcony or give all your cigarettes to your neighbor that you hate, so you'd have to walk and talk to them or wake them up if you wanted to smoke. All of these will help you to make a final step, the reward, less satisfying. So when you'll wake up in the morning, a month from now on, you'll rather go to the bathroom to brush your teeth than to go through all of that just to smoke that one, now not even that tasty cigarette. And the same thing works with building good habits. If you want to learn a new instrument per se, make the cue obvious. Place the music sheet holder in the middle of your room so it'll be impossible for you not to notice it. Make it attractive. For example, join a group of instrument enthusiasts with that one hot-looking person you could go talk to if you learn how to play or something. Cook yourself your favorite meal each time you learn a new piece. The third part is to make it easy. If you'll have to make time for it each day in your busy schedule, it's not going to work out. Place the instrument near so you won't have to look for it. Plan your week so you'll have undisturbed time exactly focused on the instrument. And at last, make it satisfying. Download an app that'll let you cross out each day you practiced. If you want to learn more, I really recommend you read Atomic Habits by James Clear for a start. However, there are many great other books like The Power of Habit, Mindset, or Habit Stacking that you can take inspiration from. I hope that you find this useful in the future and that from now on you'll be able to control your actions.
Ďakujeme za vypočutie. Ak sa vám epizóda páčila,
Neváhajte nám napísať na náš Instagram @BuzzRadio alebo zanechať 5-hviezdičkové hodnotenie.
Dúfame, že si nás naladíte aj na budúce.
Tento podcast bol vytvorený v jedinečnej spolupráci Súčany Alumni a týmu BuzzRadio. Založené v roku 2020 Jakubom Abrahamom.